Hello beautiful friends and fellow word lovers, welcome back to Pocket of Poetry. Today's video is going to be giving you guys some personalized, specific book recommendations. I went on my Instagram and I asked if anybody had any book recommendations that they were specifically looking for, like a specific genre or vibe or feeling or whatever. And I got a couple. I didn't get very many, so this video will be short and sweet, but I wanted to give you guys a couple of recommendations based on what you asked for. So the first request that I received for a book recommendation was a historical book with a hint of romance. And I like that you said a hint of romance because I feel like the kind of, I was specifically brought to mind of the kind of books that aren't romance centered, but they have romance in them, which are honestly the best kind, and historicals, always a vibe, always love it. So I actually have two different recommendations for this one. The first one is one that I just barely finished reading last week. It's called And Only to Deceive by Tasha Alexander. I was looking for some really good historical sort of books. Really I've been looking lately for historical mysteries, or kind of more thrilling historical books, because I think those are a lot of fun, and I've been trying to get more into reading that kind of stuff and expanding my reading. So this one I picked up because I saw it recommended somewhere. Picked it up at my library and it was actually so good. So basically we follow our main character. Her name is Emily. She marries this guy Philip Ashton. He's a lord, or a viscount actually, and she marries him, and 6 months after their wedding he dies. And the reason why she marries him is literally just to get away from her mom. She doesn't marry him for love or for money. Her mom is driving her crazy. She's not very interested in marriage, but she wants to get out of her mom's house, so she marries him. And 6 months later he dies, and so when he dies she's kind of in this awkward position because she's supposed to be in mourning for him, but she didn't really know him that well, wasn't really that attached to him. I mean, she liked him okay, but she wasn't in love with him. And so basically we follow Emily in about a year or so after her husband passes, and she starts to discover things about his life. She starts to read his journals, and she finds out that he was kind of in the middle of this big art forgery scam. She doesn't really know what his role was in it, but she knows that he was involved because she finds out that she has a bunch of classic works of art that are supposed to be in the British Museum. And so she kind of has to figure out what was going on, what her husband's role was in all of this. And so the book isn't actually centered on romance, it's mostly centered on Emily, and I think she's an amazing character. She's such a bright, witty, fun heroine. She's spunky without being unrealistic. It was a very wonderful character. She was so funny and cute. And there was romance in there. She has two different guys that are interested in her throughout the book. And yeah, the romance that ends up actually happening at the end is just so sweet. I loved the love interest. I thought he was adorable. And yeah, so the romance in it is really good, but it's also a thriller / mystery kind of type book about a strong female character. And so yeah, that is my first recommendation. Second recommendation would be one that I actually have. To reach down and get it. That's The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I cannot recommend this book enough to anyone. I just love it so much. So this book actually takes place in the late 1800s, early 1900s. It kind of takes place over a lot of years, but kind of that turn of the century time period. And it is a fantasy book about two magicians who create a magical circus as a venue for their competition. They have to do this magical competition, and in the process they fall in love. So the book is more about the atmosphere and the magical circus and the competition than it is about the romance. But the romance is definitely an aspect, and I really, really like the romance in this book. It's very simple. It's not I guess I didn't really read this book for the character development or for the romance, but the romance was a nice added bonus. It was definitely very magical, sort of fantastical, lovely thing to lose yourself in. And I just love this book so much. I love the historical time period. I love the magic elements to it. I love the circus and the way that the circus is kind of the core and the heart of the story. So yes, I definitely would recommend this one as a historical book with a hint of romance. Okay, next recommendation that I was asked for was a historical with a forbidden love storyline in it. And I love this question. I love this recommendation. I want more books that have historical forbidden love, but I don't actually have a ton that I've read. I even tried researching to see if I could find any that were ones that I'd heard of or that I wanted to read, but I wasn't really able to find any. So my biggest recommendation for historical romance with forbidden love would be Taylor Jenkins Reid. Really anything by Taylor Jenkins Reid, because I feel like most of her books have at least some kind of like forbidden love aspect to them, but specifically The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. That book is set in the I think it starts in like the late 40s, early 50s and goes to like the 80s or 90s. It's been a bit since I've read it, so I don't know like the exact time frame, but it is a historical book about a Hollywood celebrity named Evelyn Hugo and kind of her life story. It goes on about like the glamour of Hollywood and also about like how things weren't exactly what they seemed back then, and it was a lot easier to kind of hide the truth of your life back in those days and when you were a celebrity. And the whole story is about Evelyn Hugo, who falls in love with a woman named Celia St. James, who's also an actress in Hollywood, and they have to kind of hide their relationship because, you know, same-sex relationships were not something that, especially like a public figure, could really publicly do back then. So it is a forbidden love. It's a love story. It's a romance about these two women. Definitely like has a lot of like heavier, more adult themes in that book, so just like be aware of that. But that book is a very meaningful, very impactful story, which I love. I just think Taylor Jenkins Reid has like amazing writing, amazing character development. She's just like an incredible writer. So, okay, the last recommendation that I was asked for was for a good fantasy series. This one, there's like a lot of good fantasy series. There's so many out there, and I feel like I'm definitely not the best person to ask because I'm not the most well-read when it comes to fantasy, really. But I guess I can give you my personal favorite fantasy series. The first one would probably be The Six of Crows duology by Leigh Bardugo. Love that one. It's just, I don't know, it's so atmospheric. Character development is like absolutely amazing. Storyline is intriguing and suspenseful the whole time. It's just, and I love the atmosphere in it. Like, I don't know, I've really come to realize, like, as I've read more of Leigh Bardugo's books, I think that duology in particular is just the best one. Like, it's just so, I don't know, it's just so atmospheric, and I think that's what I love so much about it, and of course the characters too. And then my other current fantasy favorite is the Shadowhunter Chronicles. I'm reading those right now. I'm reading The Dark Artifices right now, and I love them so much. They seriously just like give me so much happiness and joy. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hopefully you got some good recommendations. I'm not like the best, like most amazing person to come to for recommendations for all of these, but I have my own favorites, so I just wanted to share them. Let me know down in the comments if you have any other requests, and I'm happy to let you know if I have any good recs for those. If you guys liked this video, please give it a like, and if you are feeling like it, please hit that subscribe button so you can be notified for my future videos, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!